What's happening, guys? Welcome to Friday's episode of Locked On Marlins. There is tons to get into. There has been an extension, not for the Marlins, but in the NL East. Jeff McNeil signing a deal with the Mets. We're going to think about who could be extended, who should be extended from the Marlins. Also, Sandy Alcantara flying private to go and collect some silverware, the Cy Young Trophy. We're going to talk about Sandy as well. And, there's going to be tons of other topics. Finally, we make it happen as well. Danny Rodriguez is in the house. Long-time listener, first-time caller, second-time caller. But finally, he has a Wi-Fi signal. So Danny is joining the show as well. All on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins podcast. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, on Twitter at Miami Marlins_UK. If you are listening, hit subscribe. The pods will just drop onto your device and they are coming at you pretty much daily. Yes, there is a YouTube channel if you would like to see us. And yes, the YouTube channel is called Locked On Marlins for those that can see us. Danny Rodriguez in the house, looking absolutely flames. He is stationary this time. He has a Wi-Fi signal. This is going better than last time. Danny, long time, brother. How we doing?
We're doing well. Last time, I was on a drive to Miami on my phone with terrible signal. So we'll call this the official first time on the pod.
100%. It was an ambitious play, I think. The fact that you had no Wi-Fi, you were driving. I'm 3,500 miles away from you. What could go wrong?
In hindsight, it wasn't the best plan.
We tried. We did actually hit record. We did start. And I must say to those, it's like an unseen episode now. The first 7 minutes were unbelievable. Unbelievable content. So they'll never be seen by anyone else. But anyway, I mean, listen, this Marlins offseason has ebbed and flowed is how I describe it. There was a lot of lulls early, but then it's really ramped up. So I'm really keen to kind of get into your view on how things have been going, how the Marlins are shaping up. But equally, there's been some breaking news in effect as we started the episode here, and Jeff McNeil getting a deal done with the Mets, which kind of got me thinking about extensions. And I think let's kind of start there right now and think about, actually from a Mets perspective, they get a nice deal with McNeil here in terms of a dollar value and a nice player. But let's think about it from a Marlins perspective, mate. Sandy Alcantara last offseason getting the real nice extension, and he absolutely delivered value on that. A lot of people talking about potential extensions. I think Jazz Chisholm clearly being one of the names mentioned. Luis Arias, another name mentioned. They've just traded for. There's also some expiring deals too in Joey Wendell, Garrett Cooper. Who's going to get the bag next time around for the fish here from an extension perspective, and who should?
So I definitely think there's two that I think Kim Ng has her eye on. It's Jazz first and foremost, and Jazz is in his own category. Mm-hmm. And then second, Jesus Luzardo. I think if Jesus Luzardo has a good year, he showed a lot. He only pitched 100 innings last year. Obviously, the elbow problems. Yeah. But I think they're going to take off the leash for Jesus this year. You're going to see what he can do. And if he really proves himself, I think he's the next arm that sees some money come his way, because you'll have 2 years left of arbitration, I believe, after this season.
Yeah.
And so I think they're going to take a look at him, because he might get more expensive if he proves to be the low 3 ERA pitcher that he is. But obviously Jazz, first and foremost, he's the guy with the highest ceiling that maybe they want to give an extension before he reaches that ceiling, because then he'll just get priced out of the Marlins price range.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
Their price range isn't that high, I don't think. So
Exactly. So maybe the McNeil extension helps the Marlins, because it's 4 years, $50 million. Obviously McNeil's a little bit older, but it could be good news for the Marlins that they're not looking at like something in the $150 million range, especially if Jazz pops off this year, which a bunch of people are expecting. Yeah. So it could. I think that's actually a positive for the Marlins in terms of an extension, and considering Jazz's age too. So
I love the shout on Luzardo, by the way, in terms of, because I guess what we've heard this offseason, we've heard a lot of rumors in terms of trades. Obviously, Pablo Lopez was a big name mentioned. We've heard Trevor Rogers' name. We haven't heard really Jesus Luzardo's name being mentioned a ton in trades, and really starting to get the sense that the Marlins are really valuing him, which kind of links to what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're hearing Pablo being thrown around, Eddie, Trevor, Jesus. They're holding on to that. Like it's someone. I mean, for a guy like Brett Beatty, they were saying was like the only way that they would get rid of Jesus, and that's a top 15 prospect in baseball. That's a game changing bat. Like that's how high in regard that they hold Jesus. And I think he's a low key person to keep an eye on for some money coming his way, especially if he springboards off the successful 2022 season that I thought he had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when he was on the field, it was absolutely stunning. The actual the on-field production, the strikeout, everything was just immense with Jesus Luzardo. And if he didn't have the arm injury that kind of ruled him out for 2.5 months, I think it seemed to go on forever, that injury. What was originally a 15-day stand, missed one turn, 2 turns and back. And next thing is it was like midsummer, the Marlins were selling, and Luzardo was on his way back. So great shout though on Jazz. I mean, the point you make though on Jazz and extension wise, this is a really intriguing moment. I'm interested to get your take more generally on Jazz, this center field decision, because, well, let's start there. Do you think Jazz is going to see time in center field? Do you think that's actually going to happen? I know that's what's being said, but what's said and what happens can be two different things.
I've been very vocal on Twitter about my opinion on this. Okay. I'm of the opinion, if you have something that works, you try and improve everything around that doesn't work. You don't move what works to create another question mark. Mm-hmm. So in essence, what we have done is we have gotten a Gold Glove caliber second baseman who has never played a lick of outfield in his life. This is a guy who played infield and shortstop his entire life. We're going to move him to center field. He's athletically gifted, no doubt, but we're going to move him to center field, and then we're going to put a below average second baseman defensively in Luis Arraez at second base. So now, up the middle, we're going to have no athleticism, Jacob Stallings, no athleticism, Luis Arraez, no athleticism, Joey Wendell. Is that really what we want to build the middle of our field with? Yeah, we'll have Jazz Chisholm, who's electric in center, but he's never played the position before. No. So Kim Ng has built the middle of the field with nothing but question marks.
Yeah.
Defensively, that is.
Are you concerned about this strategy?
Could you tell about my concern? I am extremely concerned. And I feel like this is just a cop-out on Kim Ng's part because she's afraid to pull the trigger to acquire a real center fielder. And that's what I think it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, there's still time in the offseason, so let's not fully rule that out. But I mean, the options are limited. Let's say from a trade perspective, free agency, they were never in the hunt, let's say, for any of the main options there. So there's still time. We'll wait and see. Jazz has just kind of put his name forward and said, listen, I'll do it. Just, put the organization on my back, I guess. But
we've seen at this point, I think they're committed to it because it's been reported. Jazz has come out and actually said he'll play center field. Skip Schumacher has said, you want to be my center fielder. Ken Rosenthal wrote an article about it. They're in too deep at this point. Jazz is our center fielder. So I guess we're gonna have to ride this roller coaster out and just be along for the ride.
Oh man, I mean, listen, if it works, it works. Like happy days in many ways, but it's a high risk strategy. And like you said, it is another question mark. It is, Jazz at second base, no question. Other than the health, clearly, and that is the main thing. He needs to stay healthy and stay on the field. He's looking strong. The BP he put out on Twitter the other week, he was looking very strong, looking amazing. I mean, I'd love it. Jazz is committed to the Marlins here. He's put his name forward. He's the captain now. Like he's saying, listen, this is my team. This is my organization. I'm going to lead from the front, and I'm going to take this center field job, which, is what's necessary. Going back to the extension piece, really, it's time for the Marlins to get serious about this now and commit to Jazz, because Jazz has already committed to them, in my opinion. But if he goes out there in center field, has all-star level, Gold Glove caliber center field, it's going to be expensive, right?
It's going to be way more expensive than a game-changing second baseman, worth less than a game-changing center fielder.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. So Jazz this season might earn himself an extra $50 million.
Yeah, he literally might. If it works in center field, it's probably a 50 million payday for him, in addition to what he'd get anyway for second base.
Right.
So
I definitely agree. And if he does and he stays healthy the whole time, I would say he 100% has earned it. My gripe, I wouldn't even say a gripe. My hesitation with Jazz thus far has been his production tailing off as the season comes on, and his health. Those are the two things. His talent is undeniable, and he has been amazing to start his seasons. And even last year, he was the all-star second baseman.
Yeah.
So
voted him, would you believe?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you.
What I want to see is him taking care of his body, which there's been some issues with that before, and him staying consistent with his production. So
yeah, I think, like you mentioned, there's a lot hinging on this season for Jazz right now. There's tons. If there's a healthy full 162 out of Jazz Chisholm Jr. at above average center field defense, then boy oh boy, we're in for a monster. I wanted to ask you as well about the impact maybe of some of the other changes in the infield. But before we do that, I need to tell you about our good friends over and our new friends over at FanDuel. Boy oh boy, we got the new sponsors rolling in here with Locked On, which we love to see. And the NFL playoffs are here. Boy oh boy, it's a big weekend. And we're excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sports book in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to them, that's even better. They've got so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. And new customers, if you are a new customer, listen up quick. Join today. Get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed, when you place your first $5 bet. That's all it needs, a $5, $50 in free bets. Oh boy, how do you do it? Where have I got to go? You got to go to fanduel.com/lockedon. Simple, right? Fanduel.com/lockedon. They got all your favorite bets, money line, point spreads, player props. If you want it, they have got it. And you can combine all your bets for a chance for a bigger payout with a same game parlay. I love those. I love a parlay because I love a big payout. They never seem to come, but anyway. Football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at fanduel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Danny, let's get back into this situation. The middle infield, the spine. I think one of the key things, I've just been doing a fantasy podcast, actually, talking about the Marlins, talking about Sandy Alcantara specifically. And the question posed to me was, how do you feel about Sandy? Is he a top 5 fantasy pitcher? And I said, it's a great question. For a guy that relies so heavily on his ground ball, all of a sudden the Marlins have gone anti-ground ball pitcher right now. So I did say tread carefully with Sandy Alcantara from a fantasy perspective. But Miguel Rojas traded to the Dodgers. Big trade. Looks like they're going with Joey Wendell at shortstop. Jazz Chisholm was an option. Maybe Gene Segura was an option. Jacob Amaya could be an option. What was your take on that move? Because for me, it definitely weakens the spine defensively, let's say.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Miguel Rojas, one of the greatest defensive shortstops in the history of the organization, in my opinion. And it seems to me that the organization, after a certain period of time last year, there was a closed door team meeting. It seemed like the connection was severed between Miguel Rojas and the organization. It seemed with the rift between Jazz and Miggy Rowe, which we can get into some details if you want. It seemed like the organization positioned itself more towards favoring Jazz's side than Miggy Rowe. And then it just reached a breaking point in the offseason where it seemed like they would just rather cut ties altogether with Miggy Rowe, which, I mean, I'm happy he's in LA. He'll be in a way better position, in my opinion. And hopefully, I think he's going to be on the Venezuelan team for the World Baseball Classic. So it'll be nice to see him at Marlins Park again. But the organization is definitely taking Jazz's side, no matter what. It seems like no matter what comes his way.
Well, share some details in this area. It sounds like you've got some information here to share around this situation. You know, it's fair to say There was some heat, let's say, on Locked On Marlins around this topic area at the time.
Some turmoil.
Yeah, there was some turmoil. There's some dramas. But what have you heard?
So my hashtag sources, they shared some details with me. So since the beginning, it's been noted about Jazz's proclivity to bend the rules of the organization a little bit. Ever since 2020, since he came on, there's been times where he'll go out on a Friday night with a Saturday day game or Saturday night with a Sunday day game, have a little bit too much to drink, comes on the next day and says, "Skip, my ankle's hurting, can't play." Or "Skip, my shoulder's hurting me, and just give me the day." This guy's hungover, man. Like, he's not hurt. He's hungover.
Man.
And so
Miggy's not happy with that, right?
Miggy's not happy with that, and he'd leave team meetings early. He wouldn't show up on time, things like that, where a professional would normally conduct himself in a certain way. Miggy Rowe and a couple of these guys, the older guys on the team, had a problem with him conducting himself in a manner unbecoming of a professional baseball player. Let's put that let's tie that up in a bow real nice.
Yeah.
And so they go to Don Mattingly, where in their mind, they're thinking, this is something that management needs to take care of. This is something that management needs to check this player. Mind you, this is when Jazz is popping off. Jazz is the best player on the team. Miguel Rojas is sucking. So it's Miguel Rojas, Jesus Aguilar, Anthony Bass, and Jacob Stallings. Those four had a problem with Jazz's antics, I guess, if that's the word you want to call it. They go into Don Mattingly's office, and it's Don Mattingly, it's James Rowson, and it's Kim Ng. And they approach him saying, "We need you to do something about this. His behavior is detrimental to the team. It's a lack of respect, yada, yada, yada." And so that's when Don Mattingly brings all the players in, no media, closed door meeting, stands up and goes, "So 4 ladies came to my office and talked to me yesterday. 4 ladies.
Oh, my days.
And I want them to stand up like a man and say with their chest what they told me to whoever they wanted to say it to."
Oh, my days.
So Miggy Rowe and Jesus Aguilar, who, mind you, are not on the team anymore.
Yeah.
There's Anthony Bass.
Yeah. True.
And they have an open forum airing out all their disputes.
Wow.
And arguments were flying left and right. And I guarantee you that's why when someone asked Don Mattingly after, "Was this resolved?" Donnie said no. Because it was just arguments flying left and right. People were yelling, not productive chat, not a productive chat.
Wow.
And I think that from then on, it was a deteriorating relationship. And Miggy Rowe felt hurt because he considered Donnie. I mean, he's known Donnie the longest on this team.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. He was the longest tenured Marlin.
Yeah.
So he was hurt. He was hurt by it, And they talked after, and I guess they tried to mend it, but I mean, Donnie basically stuck his middle finger at Miggy Rowe, in not too many terms. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy stuff, right?
Crazy. I mean, this type of shit, I'm sure, goes down and happens all over the show and with tons of clubs and whatever. But that whole incident, the way Donnie handled it in the media, was always it. He created this buzz around it because
it was him who did this.
It was like Donnie created this situation.
I was surprised that he handled it that way. Like, this guy's been in baseball forever. Like, he seems like such a mild-mannered guy. He doesn't seem like someone who would light the match and throw it into a pit of gasoline. You know what I mean? Like,
it was full gasoline, no doubt. Because if he would have said nothing or handled it differently, there wouldn't have been the emphasis in this area. Clearly, the stuff would have happened and got said, and it is what it is. But for me, it was kind of clear that there was some drama happening, and there was a big statement the next day, Garrett Cooper in the clubhouse, a Jazz Chisholm t-shirt on. It was clear that there was some drama flying around, some accusations, and some of the guys were taking a stand. And in reality, the players plus the organization, I think, have shown they've taken a stand because they've backed Jazz because, well, fundamentally, he's a superstar and they want.
He's a better player. So, I mean, as an organization, what do you like, I can see it from both sides. Like you have rules as an organization for a reason. Players need to follow them. Players are professionals. On the other hand, if there's a dispute between two players and one is, let's face it, aging a little bit, not producing on the field, versus the young superstar who is putting up numbers and is in the media 24/7, I mean, the choice is obvious. So I could see it from both ends 100%.
Yeah, me too. And I can certainly see why Miggy and maybe Aggie were hurt by that situation too, where the old school guys, the rules guys, that's just kind of their bread and butter, right? This is how we run clubhouses. This is what you need to do. They expect Donnie to back them up. The next thing is it goes completely the opposite way, and they're left going, "Whoa, what's my position here now?" And well,
they get cut.
I guess we know what their position is. So wild scenes, mate. Keep those ears to the ground for any more sources on anything Marlins, mate. There's always a Locked On Marlins seat available for you, mate.
Always.
You got it. Sandy Alcantara is going to pick up his Cy Young hardware, it seems, right now. Just talk to me about Sandy, though, more generally, because what I was thinking about today is, has Sandy reached his peak, or is there still more to come from Sandy here heading into 2023?
I think his game is just, it's so conducive to long-term success.
Yeah.
In my opinion. He knows how to miss barrels, and that is one of the most important things as a pitcher that you need to master, and so few can master them. Yeah. And Sandy is just so good with his sinker and his pitch mix and his location, just consistently missing barrels that even guys like Joey Wendell and Luis Arraez can scoop up nice and easy ground balls right to him all the time. So, in my opinion, Sandy is a guy who knows, let's face it, bullpen's a little weak on the back end. Mm-hmm. He needs to be controlling his pitch count. He needs to be in control of the game. If it's bases loaded, one out, he's getting two punchies.
Yeah.
But if it's a clean inning, it's probably 3 broken bats to the third baseman.
Yeah.
Like, that's the inning Sandy prefers. And we've seen him go complete games with 3 strikeouts, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't think anybody even barreled a baseball game.
No.
To me, that is a guy who will be extremely successful and put together 5, 6, 7, 8 really amazing seasons back to back to back to back to back. Yeah. And he has proven his durability to us.
I mean, that is, there is no contesting that. I mean, the durability is just insane. It is like no other right now. It's wild. I'm interested though to see, clearly with a new, skipper in town this year, in Skip Schumacher, I'm intrigued to see whether they let Sandy have the same leash, whether it's the same Sandy, whether he's given that right in some ways to go 9. Like, because if with Donnie, it just felt like, hey, Sandy's rolling, Sandy can just go. But I do wonder if Skip may look at things slightly differently and they put like the handbrake up a little bit on Sandy. I don't know. I mean, there's no need to, because
like Donnie would be like, Sandy's at 110 pitches and there's 1 out in the inning, and he'd let it ride. Maybe instead of 8 shutout, we may see a little bit more 7 1/3, 7 2/3 innings outings. It just depends if Skip has that confidence in the bullpen coming in mid-inning that Donnie clearly didn't have.
I guess so. I mean, we'll see what happens with this bullpen, mate. I mean, it's still a work in progress, but what I was thinking about as well, just to segue into that, for me, Dylan Floro, I think, looks to be probably the closer, let's say, and I think he's done a nice job. For me, I think this bullpen hinges on, can they get a breakout or a progression from Tanner Scott? Can they just try and find a way to get the whip down from like 1.16 or whatever it might be, down to like 1.1 or whatever it might be, just to Just get the command. The stuff is there, and there's a high leverage arm there in Tanner Scott. I'm confident of it, but there needs to be some way to him. I don't know. Where's your head at with Tanner Scott?
I really hope over the offseason he just honed in on command with the fastball.
Yeah.
If it was a sticky situation, we saw against the Phillies, he did not throw a fastball, and the guy was sitting slider. I forgot his name.
Stubbs.
And Stubbs, yes.
Yeah.
Like 9 straight sliders. If Tanner Scott is in a bind, he's going to the slider. And every single hitter knows that. So he needs to show up in spring with a new mentality of, listen, I've got 97, 98 with a little bit of run. I need to figure out how I can spot this even remotely consistently. So that way I can have it in my back pocket. So that way these guys aren't sitting slider every single pitch when there's runners on base.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just telegraphed. Like literally, it was slider after slider until finally this Garrett Stubbs dude, launched one out of there. I mean, it was
that loss broke my heart.
Yeah, it did. That was a painful one. I remember doing a pod straight after that happened, and it was painful. Talk to me though about Trevor Rogers and Edward Cabrera. The upside is there. These guys, they're both still young. There's tons of potential. The Marlins are going to be leaning on these guys to deliver some significant innings, as well as Luzardo. What's the confidence levels on those two to kind of step up really this year and deliver what's needed? I think.
I was reading some Fangraphs articles. One was on Trevor, one was on Eddie. Actually, I think the Eddie article was on Fish Stripes. Nevertheless, when it came to Eddie, we saw a drastic change, right, from 2021 to 2022. Eddie, the biggest thing was his changeup.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Stoudemire is
he's a magician, isn't he?
He just goes to work because Eddie's changeup was the difference maker last year.
Yeah,
he figured out how to control it and how to get some tumbling action on it, and it just opened up his entire pitch repertoire because he's got the heat and he's got some sink action on it. It's a heavy fastball, right? And he's got the hook, but he had nothing with any type of fading action, like any type of off-speed, pull the string type pitch. And I think that changed it completely.
Yeah.
We still have to work on some control. Obviously, the walks are a little bit iffy. It was the same thing with Sandy when he came out, though.
Yeah, exactly the same.
Eddie has the build. He has the stuff. He's got the pitches now. He's got fastball, sinker, changeup, curveball. That's 4 pitches. That's all you need.
He's got it all.
Now he doesn't have to worry about developing any other pitches or anything like that. Last year he was focused on the changeup, so that was, I think, a lot of his time spent. This year, command. And I think we're going to see a really good Eddie coming out.
Me too, mate. The only thing that's in the back of my mind is just these niggling injuries with Eddie Cabrera. It just feels like once he gets some momentum going, and then next thing is, something happens and he's down for a couple of weeks. That's the only thing. But
like getting some momentum going with some like 25 consecutive starts, maybe shut him down at the end because we haven't really stretched him out too much. But 20 to 25 starts of Eddie, I would be ecstatic.
Me too. What about 25 starts of Trevor Rogers in 2023?
Trevor was disappointing, man. I was a huge Trevor Rogers believer.
Me too.
Big, lanky lefty. Everybody loves some big country lefties in their rotation. That guy throws 97 from way up top. It looks like he's throwing from 56 feet. Like, I think what I had read was his a little too much reliance on the slider when it's by far his weakest pitch.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to get into the tunnel with Trev and work on a little bit of pitch mix and sequencing type configurations for Trev. Maybe go a little more fastball changeup heavy, just because his fastball rides so easily. He gets a lot of swing and miss on the fastball, and then his changeup tunnels perfectly with that. The slider, it's a slider. It's not. I wouldn't call it a cement mixer, but it's not getting a lot of swings and misses. I've done a lot of research on Baseball Savant. I don't know if you could tell.
There was a few. Listen, there was a few cement mixes in there. I'm confident of that. Like from Big Trev, that was the problem.
The biggest thing on Fangraphs, if you look at his home run per fly ball rate in 2021, it was the lowest in baseball.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, it skyrocketed up. So I think we're gonna find a little bit of middle ground, hopefully, with Trev. He won't be the hardest person to hit a home run off of, and he also won't be the easiest this year.
No.
So I think if we see Trev with his normal strikeout rate, and then he'll always walk a few batters. Like if he walks 2 or 3 batters an outing, that just comes with having Trevor Rogers on your rotation. But he needs to get back to having that swing and miss stuff, and I think we'll see a good year out of him.
I'm completely with you, by the way. Like when I think back to 21, it was fastball changeup. Like the fastball was just so hard. It looked like a hard fastball, and the changeup just was perfect. It was the perfect complement to that pitch. This slider introduced into 22, it just kind of threw everything off. And listen, righties, I just remember righties just piling into Trevor. Like it was just, everyone was demolishing him. And it was these early innings where he'd just have like a 40, 50 pitch inning or something crazy. And he couldn't get out of innings. He just couldn't get out of, the first, second, third inning. And the starts were just so short. Something wasn't right with Trevor last year, all year. It was just, it looked off at the start. Maybe it was just this slider. Maybe there was a lack of confidence in it.
I'm looking at Savant. His fastball usage went down in 2022, and his slider usage went up.
Oh yeah, exactly. Basically, you take away one of your really best pitches and just start using a cement mixer instead. That's a bad combination. So yeah, I'm interested. Yeah. Talk to me about Uri Perez, because listen, Uri's.
I love Uri.
He's knocking on the door. I mean, he's got an invite to spring. We're going to see him in spring. I mean, he's a forearm strain away from, being in the rotation at the major league level at 19. That's how close we're looking like here with Perez. I mean, what are the Marlins going to be thinking here with him?
I mean, if you think about it, it goes Sandy, then Jesus, then Johnny Cueto, then Trevor, then Eddie, then Braxton Garrett. Mm-hmm. So that's 6.
Yep.
Uri 7. You're not going to have Sixto 7. Jake Eater is not healthy yet. Max Myers still recovering from Tommy John. So Uri is knocking on the door. I mean, at spring training, your 7th guy, he's going to see big league action that year, 100%. I think I would expect Uri. He slowed down in Double-A last year, but his control was fantastic. He was missing bats every single outing. I think he just got maybe a little bit of arm fatigue. He had never been stretched out that much before. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to see we're going to see Uri in the big leagues, I think, at some point this year. I think he's going to tear it up in AAA to start the year. This guy, I am so excited for him. Touches 100, amazing control, 2 breaking pitches, nasty changeup. He's going to be insane.
He is. I'm going to clip that.
We're going to have the 3 Dominicans at the top of the rotation, and they're going to tear up the league. Hype me up, baby.
Sounds absolutely sensational. Talk to me about Sixto then, because he is looking slim on Instagram anyway. So Sixto, is he going to be back?
El Bobo season is back. No, I don't know. I don't know. Sixto, oh my God. It breaks my heart because I was so hyped for Sixto in 2020, and he was fantastic. And we just haven't seen him since. We literally haven't seen him since. Mm. And there's videos of him playing catch in Jupiter. I mean, is he throwing bullpens right now? Is he going to get innings in spring training? Does anybody know? Like that, the biggest question is, can he be on a mound facing hitters?
Yeah. That is the question. And he hasn't answered it yet.
So I mean, I'm afraid that people with that shoulder injury, they lose velo and they lose stuff. And that's the biggest thing. Sixto relied on having a 100-mile-an-hour sinker that he could control wherever in the pitch box that he wanted.
Yeah.
And so it's been literally 2 years since we've seen him. We have no idea what to expect from him. He could come out and be throwing 91, 92 flat. We have no idea. Or he could come out throwing 100 again. There's a lot of variance of outcomes and of what to expect out of Sixto. And I don't even know. I couldn't even tell you.
No, I don't think anyone can. I mean, the reality is no one knows because, until he's back throwing against hitters, and, we're just not going to know. At that point, then we'll work it out. Is Sixto still Sixto, or have the 2 years and the injuries taken their toll, I guess? But let's wrap up. with one final question, because we're probably 15 minutes over time, but this episode has absolutely flown by. It's been wonderful.
Great, yeah.
Talk about high variance. The Marlins projection. Maybe they aren't high variance, but based on the offseason thus far, it's fair to say it's been an interesting offseason. But when you look at it, they've added in Cueto, they've added in Mean Gene, they've added in or traded for Arias, given up Pablo, obviously, moved Miguel Rojas. There's a lot of roster churn going on, but just generally, how are you feeling about this Marlins team now heading into the year? Like, can they make some noise? Like, legitimately make some noise in the wild card hunt into 23?
So it all depends on what Avi Garcia does and what Jorge Soler do.
Yeah.
That it's literally that, because we have consistent contact bats that will be in the lineup and they'll make contact and they'll have 110 weighted runs created plus. It'll be Arise, Segura, Garrett Cooper. Jazz will be good. We know those four will be good.
Yep.
Okay. Soler and Avi, we have no idea what they're going to do. Slim Avi, skinny Avi, he could absolutely pop off. I am praying it happens. That's
the right word. Literally, all Marlins fans are just praying for an odd year skinny Avi special. That's what we're looking for.
Odd year skinny Avi. Yes. Yes. There's a trend and we needed to keep on going because those two are pivotal. We know Skip is going to put him in the middle of the lineup to start the year. We know that's going to happen. They're going to hit 4, 5, 6 around there.
Yeah.
And we know the pitching will be good. That's never been an issue with the Marlins. Braxton Garrett came out of nowhere and gave us insanely quality innings. Like, that's just, our rotation is fantastic in my opinion. So those two bats need to be productive because we will have guys on base. It's about will the guys we are paying a lot of money to drive in those runners. Yeah. Will they do that? That's the biggest question mark for me.
There you go. I couldn't agree more. Like, the way they've set this lineup now, the off-season business, it's for nothing if Avi and Soler can't do what they're paid to do. And that's what it hinges on. That's what this offense hinges on, is can those two big boys deliver what they should be doing? And that's it. The pitching will be the pitching. The bullpen will be fun at times, but, it'll be what it'll be. Oh, Danny, that has been
a rotation, though. I will say that I'm very excited to see Jesus get hopefully a full healthy season in. Maybe see Yuri in the rotation at some point. Yeah. Eddie and Trevor. Eddie kicking off of a successful 2022. Trevor with a bounce back. I am very excited to see what the rotation has to offer this year.
Me too. The rotation is absolutely stacked full of studs, young studs and exciting studs. And, we're not even adding into that, Sixto, really, we're not really projecting him and Max Meyer because he's down for the year. We're not even thinking about Jake Eder. Like, there's so many other names. Dax Fulton coming. This Marlins production line is just insane, which gives them opportunities to, add some sticks in a different way as the year goes on. It doesn't all have to happen right now. As time ticks along, for example, Brian Reynolds' value perhaps starts to diminish as the control starts to disappear. So
who knows? Maybe we're 500 at the midseason point.
There you
go. Maybe middling along. Offense needs a spark. Brian Reynolds is there for the taking. We could see what happens.
Exactly. Dan, you got me pumped. I must say, mate, that has been a wonderful 40 minutes. I've really enjoyed myself and hope you have too. And I'm sure everyone listening has as well. Guys, it's going to wrap us up on Friday's episode of Locked On Marlins. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen, perhaps your second listen. I know it's going to be a late drop, but nevertheless, appreciate you joining me. There will unlikely be an episode over the weekend unless there is a major news drop. And if there is, you know the drill, guys. There'll be a Locked On Marlins whenever there is news. Danny Rodriguez, thanks so much for joining me. That's Peter Pratt. Danny Rodriguez, sign out. Be back next week.